All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 29th, 2022 ZBA meeting. Our next meeting will be July 27th, 2022, 7 o'clock p.m. here in the Matthew Thornton room. And if everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. And Patrick, if you could read in the preamble, please.
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will proceed with the petitions in the order they are listed on the agenda unless the board deems it appropriate to take a petition out of order. State law and local ordinances set out the criteria that must be met in order for the board to grant a request. The minimum requirements are outlined in the form provided by the Community Development Office, and the petitioner should proceed with this format to provide adequate justification for the board to grant the request. The chair will open the meeting to hear testimony, either for or against. All discussion will be between the speaker and the board. Please be respectful of all, and in the interest of time, refrain from repeating previous testimony. No new documentation will be accepted by the board for consideration this evening, but the board reserves the right to ask for additional testimony at any time. After hearing the facts from all parties regarding a petition, chairman will close the public hearing, and the board will deliberate and vote on the request before moving on to the next petition. Please turn off all cell phones, electronic devices. When you come down, please also make sure that the light on the microphone is bright green. Thank you.
All right. Would anybody who is looking to speak tonight please raise your right hand? All right. So 2 people. Nope. Keep it up. Keep it up. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. And it looks like we are down 1 ZBA member. We're down Lynn. So, Chuck, if you could vote in for her, sit in for her, I would appreciate that. Thank you. So the first petition we have, agenda item number 3, Black Diamond Development LLC and petitioner and 744 DW LLC owner. The variance under section 2.02.3b of the zoning ordinance to permit an industrial warehouse use in the C2 general commercial district. Section 3.02 to allow for a rear setback of 5 feet, whereas 40 feet is required. This particular agenda item was withdrawn by the petitioner, so it will not be heard tonight. The agenda item number 4 is Black Diamond Development LLC petitioner and MM Realty Trust owner. Variance under section 2.02.3b of the zoning ordinance to permit an industrial warehouse use in the C2 general commercial district. Parcels located 734 DW Highway in the C2 general commercial and aquifer conservation districts. Tax map 7E, lot 31, ZBA case 2022-17. This item has been continued from the May 25th meeting, and the petitioner is looking to have it continued to the July 27th meeting. Do I have a motion for that?
Motion to accept the continuance to the July 27th meeting.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so 5-0-0. Motion was made by Patrick, seconded by Rodney. All right. Agenda item number 5, Robert and Susan Britton, petitioners, and Trevor and Haley Sprague? Sprague? Okay. Variance under section 3.02 of the zoning ordinance to permit 2 homes on 1 lot in the R2 residential by soils district. The parcel is located at 20 Trowbridge Road or Drive in the R2 residential by soils district. Tax map 5A, lot 22, ZBA case 2022-22. Just taking a look here. Variance under section. Oh, yes, please, if you could just sit at the table and make sure the light is green. I'm just checking the other one to make sure. I mean, I think these can be heard together.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay, so the second one is for variance under section 4.01 of the zoning ordinance to permit the placement of a travel trailer outside of the. Okay, I think we'll stick with the first one. So for item number 5, if you could just tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do and then walk us through the 5 points.
If you,
You want
again,
me to read them verbatim, or?
if you could identify yourself for the record, please, on the,
Oh.
into the microphone.
I
Yep.
apologize.
Yep.
My name is Robert Britton, and she's the homeowner. That's Haley Sprague.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was asking, do you want me to read verbatim basically what we had submitted, or do you want me just to tell you what we're looking at doing?
You could maybe give us a quick rundown of what you're looking to do, but then what we do have to do is go through specifically what you wrote. And if you could just stop at the end of each bullet so that we can ask questions if we have them about that bullet.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, a simple overview is that me and my wife, we sold our house and we moved into our fifth wheel full-time, and we're going to be traveling. But we haven't retired yet. We're going to be retiring probably around October timeframe, either the beginning or the end. So we are looking at, we've actually switched our residency from Hudson to 20 Trowbridge to my daughter's house. So that's our primary residence now. And what we looking at doing is basically setting up a lot, not a lot, but a pad for the trailer with hookups, so that when we do come back and we visit, that we'll have a full hookups to be able to live in the trailer while we're home, instead of living in the house, because it's not really, it won't accommodate everybody in the house as far as bedrooms go. So that's basically what we're asking for. Because I know one of the variances is requiring a second home of some, manufactured home, and which is what they're calling the fifth wheel, as a manufactured home. We're not gonna be building a home on the lot. It'll just be there temporarily we don't even have set plans, might be back for a week, might be back for 2 or 3 weeks throughout the year, and not exactly sure when, probably around Christmas time, according to my wife. We'll be back every Christmas. So that's the reason for the variance, is to be able to put that there and have it there and be able to live out of it when we're there.
Okay, excellent.
So it's like an ADU on wheels.
Kind of. Yeah.
I have a question for community.
Sure.
So, my understanding is that if they're looking at almost 2 homes, so granting the variance would allow for 2 homes on that property?
Yes, and just as an aside, real quick, I do recommend that both of these cases are deliberated at least at the same time, just because they are so intertwined, but voted on separately. And to answer Patrick's question, yes, this variance, even though the travel trailer wouldn't be continuously on the property at all times, from a variance standpoint, we would consider this a permanent variance, a permanent allowed use on the property. So we would look at this as a second dwelling unit on the parcel, which normally is not allowed in this residential district.
So, okay. All right.
May I ask Casey a question, please?
Sure.
Casey, what am I trying to ask?
Don't know.
What is the difference between what is being requested here and if uncle and aunt from California come to visit and just park for a long weekend? Is it the permanent hookups that's causing this?
Yep. So part of this proposal is that the travel trailer will be permanently hooked up to the utilities on the site.
Okay, thank you.
I guess my question probably is more towards the petitioner. Would the utilities be shared or would they be separate?
Shared, so we'll be pulling power and water from the home, and I have an excavating company that's doing the site work, and he said that they had their septic checked out, and he said what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to tie right into their septic tank, so we would be sharing the septic tank as well. So everything would be shared. Does that sound correct?
Okay. I guess my confusion, much to Patrick's point, is that if they're sharing utilities, it's not really like having a separate. I mean, I understand what you're saying about in terms of the variance, but if they're sharing utilities, Isn't that a differentiator? For example, ADUs have to have shared
Well,
utilities.
okay, so the, yeah, so this is not what we would consider an ADU. They're just with a two-family home, like a normal duplex, for example, they certainly could share some utilities, so. It's not so much that the utilities are shared, it's more the fact that they're hooking up permanently to the utilities that's making this a permanent use on the property. So
Okay.
they're looking to do this continuously, for years, I assume.
Off and on.
Yeah,
not-
yeah,
not
so this isn't
continuous.
just a visit for a week from a relative, this is a indefinite use of the property.
Can I speak?
It kind, I mean, yeah.
It can be.
Yeah, it could be.
It can be, yeah. The way it'll be set up, like right now, we're living this way and we're up at Cold Springs and we're hooked up and, we are living this way. But we don't plan on, the plan, I guess, is, we don't plan on setting it all up and parking our trailer there and living there. Our plan is to travel. That's the whole point of having the fifth wheel, is to travel. The purpose of what we're trying to do and do it properly is just to be able to have a setup for when we do come home, that we can park it there and we could stay, for a week or 2 weeks or, something like that. And then we take back off again. Instead of trying to get into a campground and, pay the fees for that and then drive and, visit family and stuff. Because our kids and grandkids and stuff live here, so we wanted to try to stay close to them when we're back home.
Absolutely. Ronnie?
Two separate questions, if I could, please. Most septic systems are set up for bedrooms. So has the septic system been determined that it's good for a 4-bedroom, and now you're adding a fifth, or is it, do you have a 4-bedroom and a septic is a 5, which would allow?
Similar. It's a 4-bedroom septic, and
Okay.
they currently have a 3-bedroom house.
Okay, so,
So we would be the 4th bedroom. Yes.
okay. And then I know we're asking questions before we heard your 5 points. My concern is that should this be approved after all our conversation, what would prevent you from becoming permanent?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we hear your intentions are to come home and visit your daughter at Christmas time, maybe for a month, and then take off again. I think my nervousness at this point is what would prevent, should it be approved afterwards? That, oh, this is working out pretty good, I think we'll just stay here and maybe we'll go away for a couple of weeks instead of,
No, I agree. It's a concern that we had as well. Me and Casey had a lot of conversations over this, because it's not, the variance that we're requesting is not the variance we were expecting to request, because it's not what we were planning on doing. If there's a long-term afterwards, we would actually probably build an apartment onto it, or, in-law apartment or something, a permanent structure. We, going through the rules and stuff, regulations on the town website, we saw there was a variance for campers to be able to live in a camper for a temporary period of time. I think it's a maximum of 30 days. And I thought that would be the variance that we would probably request for in case we went over the 30 days. I think it's 30 days. So we thought we were gonna fall into that category for an RV, but we were, and it was insisted on us that this is what we have to request for, is for a second structure to be put on there. And it's also my concern that the board would look at it just like you are, being concerned with it. And like I told my daughter and her husband, is that, if they approve this, you basically, this will carry on to, even if you sell the house, the new homeowner will have the same ability. So I don't know what the pros and cons are of it, but this is what I was told I have to do for it.
All right, well, let's hear the 5 points.
Okay, let's go through it.
And I think, we have 2 variances, and they're basically, I believe they're written almost exactly the same. So this is the variance for a 4.01. And you want me to just read right through them, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and if, given how similar they are, if you want to just, read through the criteria.
Yep.
And if we have questions for the second variance, we can certainly take a look at that. But I think to your point, they're going to be the same for the most
Yes.
part. So if you want to go ahead and just read through the one set of criteria, I'm okay with that.
Okay. The introduction, I think we kind of already hit it, but I'll still read it. It's short. Trevor and Haley Sprague are the owners of the property situated on 20 Trowbridge Drive, tax map 5A, lot 22. The property is situated on an R2 zone, consists of 3.57 acres. It maintains an existing single-family dwelling, attached driveway, and related infrastructures. The property is served by an existing well and septic system. The applicant proposes to allow their parents to park their fifth-wheel travel trailer at their home when they're not traveling. It would be a part-time situation only when they are in the area, since the town of Merrimack views this as creating a two-family dwelling and having a manufactured housing unit. That is not permitted in the R2 zone under section 3.02 and 4.01 of the zoning ordinance. 2 variances are required to allow this to happen. The enclosed site plan sketch depicts the proposed boundary between the neighboring properties and trailer placement. The applicant proposes to hire an excavating company to install a gravel pad and tie into the existing home, water, electric, and sewer, maintaining all code requirements. For the reasons set forth below, the applicant submits that they have satisfied all variance criteria and requests that this board grant the variance. Point number 1, granting the variances would not be contrary to the public interest because for a variance to be contrary to a public interest, the proposal has to conflict with the ordinance so much that it violates the ordinance's basic zoning objectives. The relevant tests are 1, whether the proposal will alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and 2, whether it threatens the public health, safety, or welfare. Granting these variances will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The proposed plan will allow a brand-new travel trailer to be located on a gravel pad versus concrete. Minimal tree removal will happen, allowing for the trailer to be less noticeable from the existing neighbors in the back and to the sides of the property. The plan is to maintain the original residential environment as much as possible. Thus, from an external perspective, the character of the neighborhood will remain relatively unchanged by this proposal, and the space would only be occupied when the family is in town. The existing septic is sufficient to support any increased usage associated with the travel trailer being on the property, and there is or will be sufficient parking in the driveway to accommodate 1 or 2 additional vehicles. Furthermore, it needs to be reminded that this will not be a permanent site for the travel trailer and that it will most likely only be on the property for weeks to 1 month at a time. There will be no, it says 1 to 2 months, but there will be no adverse impacts or injury to any public rights if the variances are granted. Accordingly, granting the variances would not be contrary to the public interest. 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because it is in the public's interest to uphold the spirit of the ordinance. Therefore, courts have held that these 2 criteria are related. If you satisfy one test, you almost certainly satisfy the other. In addition to the above stated reasons, which are incorporated herein by reference, granting the variances will not result in additional or undue congestion or overcrowding in the area. The area already has a second driveway that exists when the home was purchased. This is the area that will be slightly expanded while maintaining as much of the existing trees and shrubs as possible. This would not encroach on the current setback of the boundary. We must continue to remember that this will only be occupied when family is not traveling. Therefore, the spirit of the ordinance is observed.
I do have a question for you, though. I don't see, is there a plan as to where the trailer is going to be placed?
So there is, it should be attached. There is a,
There is that one picture that is like a handwritten drawing.
yes. It's a printout of one of your, we got it offline off of one of your sites, and we just kind of drew it on. It's small. Might need glasses for it, but
Oh, I had I was in the other petition. Okay.
So what's the length of your trailer?
the trailer's 42 feet, and it's pulled by a 1-ton truck with a 8-foot bed on it. So, but they would probably be separated. The excavating plan is to extend the current driveway to about 60 feet and make it about 20 foot wide, and run it parallel to the side of the house. So.
So is it is the trailer going to be parked within the 60 feet?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm sorry, how long did you say? You said it was about 40 feet long?
42 feet. So we're actually making the pad long enough to be able to fit the truck underneath the nose of the fifth wheel if we had to. So we made it that long for that purpose. Instead of parking alongside or parking, they have a 4-car driveway already in place with a 2-car garage. So we can park vehicles there, but instead of parking them in and constantly moving vehicles, we made the pad long enough so that we could keep we have a car and the truck, we could keep one of them in front of the trailer if we needed to, without it going into the street or even sticking out. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
continue?
Yes, please.
All right. My wife's a great writer, isn't she? All right, I think we're on 3. Granting the variances would do substantial justice because the Supreme Court has held that measuring substantial justice requires balancing public and private rights. Perhaps the only guiding rule is that any loss of the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice. And there's a case reference there. There is no injury to the public if the variances are granted. There is no gain to the public if the variances are denied. There is only loss to the applicant if the variances are denied. Therefore, when balancing public and private rights, the loss of the applicant if the variances are denied outweighs any loss or injury to the public if the variances are granted. Additionally, the parking of the same travel trailer on one's own property is a right. The only difference would be that someone would be living in it part-time. Therefore, granting the variance would not granting the variances would do substantial justice. Number 4, granting the variance would not diminish the values of surrounding properties because if the variances are granted, this property will remain consistent with the residential character or of other lots in the surrounding area such that there will be no adverse effect on surrounding property values. As discussed above, while there is an existing stone driveway, the changes to that driveway will be done in such a way as to maintain the original natural rustic character of the area. The travel trailer will only be used by family members and therefore will not lead to an increase in noise, substantial traffic, or visual blight for the surrounding properties. There will not be any overcrowding or congestion if the variances are granted. No additional hazards or safety issues will arise. 5.
Actually, before we get to 5, are there any questions from the board? All right. Please
5,
continue.
Unnecessary hardship. Unnecessary hardship will be found when the subject property has special conditions or circumstances that distinguish it from other properties in the area and the proposed use is reasonable. The applicant's property currently has an existing gravel driveway that was present when purchased and will be used to park the trailer on. The actual area around the driveway and the front yard will undergo a renovation that will actually improve curb appeal of the property. To the extent the purpose of the zoning ordinance's restriction on 2-family dwellings and manufactured homes is to prevent congestion and overcrowding. Those issues are not present here in light of the minimal changes to the current property. The use would only be on a part-time basis and the changes to the property are minimal. The tie-in to the existing septic is no problem as the current system can support the additional use. The applicant's desire is to keep the property looking as residential as it does now. There already is an existing parking that will meet the needs going forward. The purposes that the zoning ordinance seeks to protect are not in any way threatened if these variances are granted. The proposed use is a reasonable one because there will be minimal changes made to the property while keeping the original residential feel and look of the area. A brand-new travel trailer would be placed on the property, only being used for a limited time while family is in the area. There will be no additional burden on the area traffic and will not affect any other property values. That should be it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How far is the house set back from the road?
That's a good question. If I had to guess, it's a normal distance. It's not set way back. It's, front on the road, maybe 30 feet, a normal distance, so.
So would the front of the trailer, when it's parked,
Be forward of the house?
even with the house or further back?
It will, I would think that it's gonna be forward of the house a little bit. When we go back the 60 feet that we were talking about, that's from the road. So the trailer's 42 feet, so that only leaves you at about 18 feet or so. So the trailer, the back end of the trailer, it's gonna be alongside of the house, so the back end of the trailer will probably be kinda close to the whole length of the side of the house, but it will stick forward a little bit. Yeah. But it's sided by trees, the whole, if I'm parked in the streets in front, the whole, what they call it, the driver's side it's all a tree line. And then on the other side is their yard, their lawn and stuff, so.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board? Oh, sorry, Chuck.
I'm just a little bit confused because I hear a lot of conditional promises, but the application that is before us is substantially different from conditional promises. For instance, the variance that is being requested, it comes to my mind that when we hear testimony about how they're actually going to use it, it then does become essentially an ADU or a second property, and does it violate the setbacks? I assume that there wasn't any comment from community development because they were recommending something entirely different, but it seems to me that there would be a need for an additional setback variance. Yes, no?
I think that's a good question, and I don't really know what the setback requirements are on R2. Casey, do you?
Yeah, I mean, I can check real quick. Setbacks were not an immediate concern for us. I just looked at the GIS. It looks like the house, this is a rough number, it looks like the house is about 40 feet away from the property line. I can do a quick look to see what the exact setback is. But that was not a concern of staff.
Well, I mean, we're looking at a 40-foot trailer and additional parking space for the rig. So it does begin to, in my mind, to seem to crowd the setback requirements.
Actually, I know that could be a possibility because it's going to sit about 18 feet from the road. So,
But in any event,
yeah,
what's actually being asked for is a permanent variance that goes with the land. So all conditional use is ancillary to the application. They would, if the variance was granted, they would indeed have forever a second lot service area.
yes, that's correct.
No matter what the testimony is, it goes with the land. So,
Right.
Again, all of the conditional testimony is not sufficient to protect the interests of the town. For instance, we don't know what happens in families. All kinds of things happen in families every day that are unanticipated. And if, for instance, they decide that they're going to take a trip through Canada and the United States and Mexico, and they're going to be gone 2 years, what would prevent the homeowner from saying, hey, I have a wonderful setup here, I can rent it out to somebody who wants to take advantage of this utility hookup in residential space?
I don't know that I would, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't know that I would completely feel the same way, though.
Mr. Chair?
Well, the point.
Could
the-
we move this to the discussion that are closed when we
Yeah,
group? Unless a question is directed for,
I think that's a good point.
yeah. I'm not cutting you off because I would like to continue this, but I think it's more appropriate after we close the public.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I am perfectly willing to acquiesce to that, but I wonder if we could have a more structural procedure that doesn't get us off track.
I think, well, to reference what Chuck's talking about, I guess, Casey, are there provisions that can be stipulated in with the motion?
Do you have an idea in mind?
So,
The way that we had the variance done this way is because it's, unfortunately, variances kind of have to be all or nothing because they go with the land. And it would be difficult to police some kind of partial variance where it's allowed X amount of days or whatever. We did have one recommendation that if the board were to potentially approve the variance to allow the second dwelling unit on the property, to have it be so that it has to be this travel trailer that is spoken of in the second variance request that's before you. That was one recommendation that staff had.
okay. So, but that's for the second variance, correct?
No, if the board decided to grant this variance and place a condition on it, that condition would be for the first variance.
Okay. All right, so it looks like we do have something that we can do to kind of prohibit what you were referring to of bringing on another trailer. But I think in the interest of time, I will go ahead and open up the public portion. Is there anyone that's looking to speak in favor of this petition? Anyone looking to speak against this petition? All right, I'll go ahead and close the.
Yeah, we're just the neighbors.
Oh. So just as a heads up, all conversation has to be directed towards the board. So if you have a question, please do come up front and take a seat and just state your name, address. But we do request that all questions are directed towards us.
Do I have to push it? Or?
It looks like it's lit up and I can hear you on the speaker, so I think you're good.
All right. So my name is Kyle DaCosta. I live on 438 South Babusick Lake Road.
Okay.
I'm the neighbor to this petition. I'm only curious how long construction might be and how many trees would be taken down.
I think those are fair questions and we can certainly pass them off. Was there anything else that you had questions about?
That's pretty much it. You guys kind of nailed them, the rest of the questions that we had.
Okay. So in that case, we'll relay those questions.
Okay.
Because they're good questions. But yeah, thank you for asking, and we'll certainly relay them.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the questions being, what's the time frame for construction, and are any trees being taken out to accommodate?
Yes, so the excavator said once he gets on site, it shouldn't be more than 3 days or so, so we'll say a week at the most. It depends on
Okay.
the amount of work that we're doing. My daughter and her husband wanted to do more work around the house on the other side, just clearing and leveling, but we don't know if we're doing that or not. So just on the side where the RV is gonna go, it should only take a couple days, not that long. But if they do more work, and he said it wouldn't take more than 3 to 4 days. And that would be coming in, starting work, leaving, and having it all, what do you do when you blow the grass on with the paper? What do they call that? Hydro seeding.
Yeah.
So the front yard, if that was gonna be done, that would all be, within a week, he'll be in, gone, and hydro seeding.
And all your hookups will be ready in a week?
I don't know if the electricity and the water will be, if it'll be plumbed or wired in yet, but all the excavating work will be done.
Ah,
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. And as far as trees go, no big pine trees, no pine trees are coming down there. It's mostly the scrubs, you know, small little 4-inch trees that are kind of coming up, and because of the big pines, they're kind of leaning over. So there's not really, in that part, there's not a lot of trees coming down. That-
Okay.
Not expected. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
And as far as the setback goes, if we have to, we can go further back. What happens, their land kind of drops off, so we were just trying to prevent bringing in so much fill to level it off. So those were the numbers that we were using. But if you wanted the trailer to set back further, we can just have them go back even further. I mean, I can have it behind the house, but I don't know how many thousands of dollars worth of fill that would cost, but we can go back pretty far if we have
Yeah,
to.
I would have to assume that if being within 18 feet from the road were an issue, that the community development office would have mentioned that to you and said to put that in your variance, because
Yeah.
I know in some areas that could be an issue, but it sounds like it's not in your particular case. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I'll speak up and say that when the time comes where they're going through the construction process, if the building department sees that it's beyond the setbacks for that lot, that would trigger them to either have to push the trailer back or to go through another variance process to ask for a setback variance.
Okay. So
How far back am I supposed to go?
that's essentially what I'm asking.
Because I don't want to do another one of these. This is almost 3 months in the making before we can finally get here, so I don't want to do another variance. Do you know how far back I have to set?
You know what, I was trying to figure out whether or not we would consider this lot a legal non-conforming lot or not, so, which I'm in the middle of figuring out, because that would change things. If this was just a normal R2 lot, there would be a 50-foot front setback. Meanwhile, if it's legal non-conforming, it could have a 30-foot front setback, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
So either way, it sounds like they're gonna be encroaching a setback, regardless of.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be able to have the trailer any closer than potentially 30 feet to the front property line.
Well, that's fine, we can go back further.
Okay. All right.
I get-
So I guess that being said, that there's no stipulation as to how far back they have to go in here. They just need to make sure when.
No, it's a little irrelevant tonight, because tonight we're just looking at the use
Okay.
rather than placement.
Okay. All right. So, all right. That's what I thought. Just wanted to make sure. So, since we're not actually discussing setbacks as part of this tonight, just something to keep in mind that if you encroach a setback, that might not be good. If assuming that these pass. So I guess with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion so that we can get to deliberation. Unless you have a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, more of a statement, I guess, because this is, for us, this has kind of gotten really big, one could say out of hand, but I know it's all legit, so we have to do it. But all we wanted to do was just be able to come home and have some place to park the trailer. And, you know, we know that if we lived there, like if my daughter bought the trailer, she could just park it there whenever they're not using it, no problems at all. And, but because we want to, you know, not crowd the house, and technically that is our house, you know, we want to stay in it. It just seems like it got to be a lot more than we ever expected.
Oh, understood.
Yeah.
Completely understood.
Okay.
Because of what it is and the way our ordinances treat it,
Yeah.
we have to treat it as if you're building a new property and slapping it right next to the existing one. And I totally understand your frustration with the process.
Yeah.
This is the first one I think I've seen. Been here a while.
Okay.
So totally understood. But I mean, at this point in time, all we can really do is discuss as a group and see what direction we're going to go in with it. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and close this, and Any further discussion on thoughts? I'll be honest, I think that, I think this, if we're using the provision that the community development is recommending, I'm in favor of this.
Well, Chuck, you had some comments you wanted to finish up.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely happy with the incompleteness of the scope of the work as a whole.
I don't think we need to focus on that, though. We're just really focusing on whether or not this should or shouldn't happen. 'Cause-
Well, the reason I'm focusing on it is because this is the first incident of this kind that we have come across. And although we may be sympathetic to the applicant, it would be creating a precedent.
For the property, yes, not for anyone else.
Well, that's not something that we can easily declare. These things tend to become established practice, and they grow legs of their own. And I don't believe myself that we have had a full investigation of what all the evidentiary items are relative to the proper outcome of this petition.
I think you could say that about most of our petitions, though.
That may very well be, but this could be a precedent-setting variance. And rather than shoot from the hip, because we may be sympathetic with the applicant, we nevertheless are representing the future interests of the town of Merrimack. We have before us a regular citizen who wants to do what he thought was a very regular thing. But the majority of people that come before this board are Philadelphia lawyers. And I would hate to anticipate how a simple act of kindness might take on an entirely different character as time goes by, and I would exercise caution. Is there a possibility that the petition could be withdrawn until the loose ends that we have exposed can be brought together in a full, single presentation to the board?
I would say no, that's not a possibility. We can't ask someone to withdraw their petition.
Withdrawn might not be the word that he meant, maybe possibly a continuance for more information.
I think that is
Okay, I'm
indeed
sorry.
more accurate. I simply want to see that all of the Ts and all of the Is have the correct pen applied to them so that we can, in fact, execute justice on behalf of the petitioner.
I would agree, but at this point, what I really need is more of a discussion in what direction the motion's going to go. So I think I have a good understanding as to what direction you will go. But at some point, someone has to make
until I hear the motion, I won't actually be able to say. This is just
Right.
general discussion about what has been provided before us for our consideration. And I'm simply exercising caution that it may be more murky than we know, given that we simply do want to treat the applicants in the fairest way possible.
You're right, but if we have the ability to tie this variance to the explicit trailer that is mentioned, then we have the ability to, not leave this as a blank check for building a second house on the property.
If we can be assured that that is indeed the outcome, but
Well, we've had petitioners
we
who built
simply
ADUs without asking.
if we simply craft something on the fly without knowing what its real repercussions might be, we might not be doing the thing that a little bit more time would give us better confidence in.
So my thoughts are, as far, you're granting the petition could permit a permanent second single-family dwelling on the property. However, there are variances, there are building variances as to where, how far you can be from a property line. So if the, put in the utilities, like you're saying, and then turn around and decide they want to build another house, well, they can't if it's, unless it fits within the property line. Otherwise, they have to come back here for a variance. And odds on, if you were to try to build another house the same size you're building there on that property, you wouldn't get the variance, you wouldn't be able to fit it, more than likely. So as far as being concerned about them having the ability to put a second dwelling on the property, you wouldn't be able to, because in looking at the property size, unless you started really tearing down trees, you're really gonna be, you have to squish houses, you're gonna have to demolish a house. I mean, it would be a lot of work. It'd be more work than probably would be worth. That being said, I also did a good amount of reading regarding ADUs. And an ADU, according to the town of Merrimack and the state of New Hampshire, can be an accessory dwelling, can be either within or attached to the property. So the concern of they could build an ADU, they could potentially, and again, we're doing the woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? Or the ifs, ands, and buts. They could potentially do this, but they could potentially put an ADU. But again, that ADU would have to meet certain requirements, such as square footage. Also, would have to be within the proper setbacks of the property, both front and back. So, the only thing that sticks me on this, to be honest with you, and I like what you're trying to do, because I think that's a cool idea. And if I can get my kids to do it when I'm that age, I might take that from you, take your idea. The only thing that I don't like is I don't like that we're trying to do this under section 3.02, whereas, maybe a different section, I might like accessory dwelling. I might have tried maybe that, but I'm not really big on the section they're using. But town community development, they pick the section. They know more about they know, they're the experts in this. We bow to them. So if they feel that that's the best section to use, then I agree with it. But from what they're seeing, from what the concerns of what could potentially happen a year, 10 years, 15 years down the road, could you allow a second habitat on there? Yes, you could. But keep in mind, someone would have to build it within the confines of that property. Otherwise, they'd have to seek a variance, which means they'd have to come back here. Whether it's these owners or the new owners, they have to come back here to seek a variance to be able to do it. And, I think at that time, we would probably be looking at it going, that wasn't the intent of it. Plus the fact that we can tie it to the travel trailer based on what community development said and based upon what the chairman said. I personally, I will admit I had some trepidation. I did some reading. You're absolutely right. They could turn around and build an ADU that's within their right, as long as it fits within the property line and meets the variances and the requirements that, based on Merrimack and state laws, they could do that if they wanted to. As long as they're within the setbacks. I don't see a reason to move forward on this petition. That's my 2 cents.
Yep.
Thank you, Patrick, for that, because I was riding along with Chuck on this, and the statement on this, granting this request would permit a permanent second single-family dwelling. That statement alone scared me. But then, in light of what Patrick said, that should they or the next owners decide they want to put up a log cabin or something, they again would need to come before us for the variances, for the differences of their frontage, their side, whatever. And at that point, we can say, as Patrick mentioned, that wasn't the intent of the trailer. And again, we could deny the advancement of a solid dwelling versus because I love that idea. I mean, I had a little pop-up trailer. We used to run an extension cord out one window. But I like the idea, and I like what Patrick explained, and I feel comfortable that the zoning board still has some control to prevent a new structure from sneaking in there at some point.
Right.
Thank you.
And the only thing I think, like we've said, is that the math on the frontage requirements might not add up, but we're not talking about that tonight. So we're just saying, hey, by the way, FYI, your trailer might be a little bit further back, but that's just a heads up, not something that we're necessarily going to go into. Go ahead, Chuck.
Again, I ask my colleagues to revisit the idea of a continuance because we all have varying perspectives on how something like this might be done, but none of us can be secure that the outcome won't have to be revisited again with some other petitioner, with some other Philadelphia lawyer, and so forth. And I think that we can, by having a continuance, can have community development come with a straightforward package that explains everything we need to know to either approve the petition or deny it.
So personally, I feel comfortable voting on this now. And if we're going to go down the route of a continuance, that is the will of the board.
When you look at the presentation here, when you look at what the petitioner is presenting, it's very clear that while they speak of 2 units, one is the existing single-family home, and the second unit is the travel trailer. So this is very clear as to the intent of, any decision in the affirmative that we would make tonight.
Correct.
And I don't think that opens the door to someone later buying the property and thinking they have a blank check to build another entire single-family house without having to come through the normal approval processes.
And not just that, if they do, they still have to meet all the setback requirements, which fortunately in this case are kind of loose, given the fact that it's a trailer, not a permanent structure. I shouldn't say loose, that's probably a bad word, but
Well, it's variable.
yeah. If they infringe on a setback, they move the trailer back, they have that ability. You can't just pick up a house and toss it.
Yeah.
So, I'll entertain a motion if somebody has one.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Robert and Susan Britton petitioners and Trevor and Haley Sprague owners variance under section 3.02 of the zoning ordinance to permit 2 homes on 1 lot in R2 residential by soils district. The parcel is located at 20 Trowbridge Drive in the R2 residential by soils district, tax map 5A, lot 22, ZBA case number 2022-22. The petitioner, should the board approve the petition, staff recommends any approval be conditioned upon the following: that the petitioner shall obtain a variance sought under case number ZBA 2022-23. Is that right? Yeah. I do, before somebody seconds, I do have a question for community.
Mm-hmm.
Can we change the wording and take out 2 homes? Because it's not 2 homes. It's a home and a travel trailer.
So that was how it was posted for this hearing, so you can't change the wording. And that's, the staff put a lot of thought into how this should be approached. And that is the conclusion that our zoning administrator came to, is that this needs to be looked at as 2 dwellings. Even though 1 dwelling, you're right, is intended to be a travel trailer, 2 dwellings on this parcel.
Okay.
Which, in this particular residential zone, only 1 dwelling can be on a parcel.
Okay, I still put, so, okay.
That's why we're adding the condition.
Right,
Okay.
so there's another
So
condition that we're
I still
recommending.
move forward with my motion.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just think for the I should ask for clarification before making my motion, but I still move forward with my motion to grant. Sorry.
With the condition that it's attached to the 42.
Well, and that isn't that the next, that's the next one, right? Or we're not.
Yeah, so do you mind if I come back to my recommended condition, just for clarity? Just a recommendation.
So, yeah, okay, then with the recommendation, well, based on community development's advisement, that this condition, it's based on the condition that a travel trailer is going to be what's gonna be parked there.
Yeah,
Is that what- is that what you're looking
with two, so it'd be two conditions. One condition being that the other variance is obtained, and then our second recommended condition is that that second dwelling unit is the travel trailer that is being requested in this other variance.
So that's
Yep, and I can,
what she said.
If that's the motion of record, I'd like to second it.
Okay, motion made by Patrick, seconded by Rodney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, 410. And since we made it this far, do I hear a motion on the second variance?
I'll make a motion in this, okay, this is the permit, the placement of the traveler trailer. Okay, 4.1, okay. Robert, I make a motion to approve Robert and Susan Britton petitioners and Trevor and Haley Sprague owners variance under section 4.01 of the zoning ordinance to permit the placement of a travel trailer outside the manufactured housing park. Outside of manufactured housing park. The parcel is located at 20 Trowbridge Drive in the R2 Residential by Soils District Tax Map 5A Lot 22 ZBA case number 2022-23. And there are no conditions unless I miss anything.
I second it.
Okay, motion made by Patrick, seconded by Rodney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 410. So, just a heads up, you do have a 30-day window where somebody could appeal these decisions. But other than that, good luck.
Okay. Do I have to wait the 30 days before we can start something, or
If somebody appeals it,
we would have to stop if we started?
So if you start tomorrow and then Friday somebody throws in an appeal, so you kind of started your own risk for the first 30 days. But after 30 days, so someone can appeal within for 30 days, is basically so.
I don't know when it's gonna start, and I think we're at the mercy of the contractors now, they're,
Yes.
how busy they are, so we'll see when that happens. All right, all set?
All right. Good luck.
Thank
luck.
you. Enjoy. Thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck, and I agree with you as well, too, but I'm glad we voted this way, thank you. It's all right.
Yeah, you're all set. You guys can leave. You don't have to stick around. See you guys. Thank you. Have a good one.
take care. Before we go through the election of officers, we don't have Lynn here. Do we want to wait for a full board, or do we want to continue?
For what purpose? And this is not a dig at Lynn. She has no desire to run for a seat.
No.
Unless she wants to
But
nominate
she's a full
somebody.
member. And
She's a full member, and by not being here, she does not have the ability to cast her vote. That's,
Then I think it's fair we wait. My opinion.
I'm in no hurry.
all right. So in that case, do I hear a motion to continue the election of officers until we are at a full board?
So, yeah, I agree. We can do that. We're gonna, community, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that if you want to. I guess, I think there tends to be usually one person missing most months. So if, again, next month there's a person missing again, is the plan just to keep continuing it, or?
Do you want me to text her?
I mean,
I mean, I would we've already continued it from May. I would have no problem continuing it to July with the caveat that the vote has to be done in July.
Okay.
If that's what everybody on the board feels. Otherwise, we can make a vote today. I'm fine with that as well. It's up to you. You're the chair.
I do not have an opinion one way or the other. I'm trying to think of what is most fair for the board. That is all. So I am, like I said, you know what? Why don't we do what you just said? We'll continue to July, and July will have to be the drop dead date.
I just texted Lynn.
You tell her she has to be here.
Well, I just asked Lynn, do you care if we vote for offices without you present? Give her the opportunity to yay or nay it. So if we maybe delay this for a couple of minutes to give her a chance to respond and come back to it?
If she gets back, if she gets you, yeah.
Then do we want to move to the minutes from last month? Yes.
Just as a point of order, I am sitting here with the full authority of a voting member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And no one is a zoning board member until the gavel comes down. And whether it was Lynn or Pat or Rod or Ben or yourself, we have a full sitting board here with every moral and ethic ability to reorganize. And it bears no weight that someone else isn't here because your 5 authorized legitimate members are here.
I'm doing this out of respect only because last month we did do the same, out of respect to Rodney. So I figured I would give the courtesy. And actually, if we're going to continue, we have to vote on it as a board anyway. So if somebody motions to continue it and it fails, we vote tonight anyway. So technically, you're right.
I am right. And I think we are well advised to understand what the power of each sitting member is. When I am an alternate and not sitting here as a voting member, I have no power. The board has given me the privilege of speaking to any issue that is before us.
Okay.
But when I am asked to sit here, you have your 5 full members of the board, and no one else is empowered outside of this meeting.
Correct. And it's being told to me that we should do it, that Lynn is okay with us doing it tonight, so let's do it tonight.
I nominate Rich for chairman.
I was about to nominate you.
You're not that fast. Unless you can not accept the nomination if you choose not to.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination.
I second Rich.
All right. All in favor of Rich is continuing the chair, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? You know you can't abstain.
Oh, I can abstain all I want. Tim can come yell at me for that.
I nominate Rod for vice chair.
I'll accept that.
There a
I
second?
second. Ben seconds.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You are not. Are you abstaining?
I'll abstain.
Okay,
If the
4-0-1.
chair does it, the vice chair must.
Oh,
Okay.
congratulations.
I think I'll have COVID next month.
It'll be the first time you guys did that to me. All right. Awesome.
All right, so do we vote on minutes? No?
No.
Motion made by somebody on minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes, May 25th.
Seconded by Chuck. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All oppose? All abstain? 401. Who wants to make the last motion of the evening?
Actually, I think we did skip over the discussion agenda item.
Yes.
Did we?
The what?
I think Tim just wanted me to, it sounds like you guys did see his email, but Tim wanted just me to make an announcement pointing out it seems like the annual email that he sends, just kind of reminding board members about when it is and when it is not appropriate to abstain on a motion. Abstaining on motions appointing chairs and vice chairs is perfectly acceptable, or abstaining on motions approving minutes for meetings you weren't present for, that's also acceptable. But abstaining on motions for cases that you're voting on that evening should be a very rare occurrence and typically not appropriate. So yeah, Tim just wanted me to recommend that everyone reads that email that he sent out.
Yeah, so it looks like he sent this out. All right, so,
Yeah, June 17th, he sent the email. It was actually, he forwarded the email from last year. I think he sent this email again because we have some members that we didn't have a year ago.
I'm actually, yeah, so I have it up now. I'll go ahead and read it.
Sure.
So this is from a forward from a, wasn't this the year before that he sent that?
Yeah, I can look at, yeah, so,
November
right,
4th,
it was
2020.
back-
Oh, it was a while ago. Okay.
yeah, never mind. Yeah, it was in November 2020 that he originally sent the email and he resent it this past Friday.
All right. So this is from Tim from back in 2020. He states, I have noticed that there has been a bunch of votes by different members to abstain after a motion is made on a petition. By statute and by our rules of procedure, a member should only abstain in circumstances of financial interest in a specific outcome the board has jurisdiction over, prejudice, or a conflict of interest, which I think in the last month that qualified. Why would someone abstain for any other reason than to vote on the petition? Setting aside those situations when a member is disqualified or recused because of prejudice or conflict of interest, there are few, if any, reasons for a member of any public body to decline to vote on a matter that is properly before the body. I don't want to take a position or I'm undecided are not legitimate reasons. Members are elected or appointed to a public body to make decisions, and they should be expected to do so regardless of difficulty. I suggest that if a board member feels like they cannot make a decision, similar to the lack of 3 votes discussion above, referring to if there's less than 5 members, a motion should be made to continue the deliberations to a future date and work to allow for further testimony by the petitioner and the public so that a vote can be made with confidence at the subsequent hearings. Additionally, just because a member may not have been seated for the first part of a continued meeting, yet find themselves seated for voting purposes at the end, they can and should still vote. It is incumbent upon all members to follow along regarding petitions even when absent from the meeting. Read the staff memos, read the documentation provided in the packets, and read the draft minutes so everyone can come prepared to discuss and or vote. And he states, I will note that while not necessary, abstentions on votes on minutes, that's okay. And also abstaining for a vote on yourself during an annual meeting for a chair, vice chair vote is also okay. These types of decisions, votes do not carry the statutory requirements regarding 3 affirmative votes. So his point just was that we shouldn't be abstaining. Go for it, Chuck.
To abstain on minutes regarding a meeting that you were not in attendance is a fairly common practice.
Right.
But it's not necessary because minutes are minutes. There is no such thing as draft minutes or unapproved minutes. The minutes are minutes. It's an ongoing record. And the board occasionally, from time to time, approves the record as it exists. But there's no requirement to abstain from minutes that are talking about a meeting that you were not in attendance. You can still vote on those minutes because it is an approval of the ongoing record, whether you were in attendance or not.
That's correct. What we've done in the past is we have, and again, this is personal choice, we have chosen to abstain if we have not watched the meeting on video to verify that the minutes are accurate. And I mean, you're right. But as a preference, if I miss a meeting and I haven't seen the video of it, I don't feel comfortable validating the authenticity of what people have said. And that's a personal preference on my part. So you're right, I could vote, but I don't think it would be an authentic vote if I voted not having heard what people have said after reading what they've said, especially where we have a few times had to change minutes. So it's just a,
Well, you're not really changing minutes. The minutes are evolving. It is a matter of evolving record. And that's why when you want to know what has happened, you always look 2 meetings back to see what transpired to bring the meetings to the moment, and then meetings ahead to get the full context of what surrounded a particular issue.
yeah. That, yes. Have we addressed everything we needed to address?
Yep, I just wanted to make an announcement about that email to make sure everyone had read it.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. I do remember getting his follow-up email and completely spaced it, so thank you. Rodney?
Quick comment, I'd like to thank the community for the email last week, helping to explain the variance criteria guidelines. That was very helpful, and of course, the zoning board of adjustment rules of procedure that they presented, left on our desks today. Thank you very much.
The what?
The updated rules of procedure that we left, yeah, so
Yes.
don't accidentally toss those.
Yes, that's
Those are for you to keep.
Very helpful.
also neither here nor there. I still need a copy of the book.
The RSA
Yeah.
book? Oh, sure, I can make a note, sorry.
I always forget to mention it before meetings, and then I get here and remember I don't have the book. But I can always look them up.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.